Celeste, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate your time. Okay, so let's just dive right in. And I would love to begin talking about like your entrepreneurial journey. Like what made you decide to start your own company? And is this your first company, or have you done other things like this?
It's not my first company. And whenever I talk about entrepreneurship with folks who are not entrepreneurs, I always say, they always ask, like, when did you start? Why did you start? Because I found that people are very curious about how to get in. And I think that I was fortunate in that I always tell people that I was young enough and dumb enough to do it. I started when I was probably 26 when I was in New York. And this was before the big 2008 crash. But I had been working in-house doing public relations and marketing. And then I worked agency doing public relations and marketing. And I would look around at the founders of the agency, and I knew what I was making, and I knew what they were pocketing, and they were very successful. And I thought, wait a second, I'm doing all the work. Like they're not really managing me.
True.
And this is the youthful naivete of I can do anything. Why don't I just do this for myself and I'll keep the money? So, and I'll make the relationships and they'll be mine, and we can really like carve this out and make this our own. So yes, as a youthful, optimistic 26-year-old, I dove in headfirst with a business partner, and we opened our own PR agency at the time. This was before all of the big social and e-commerce businesses were popular. So we had a PR agency and showroom on Park Avenue South, and we had great clients. And then the 2008 crash happened, which it was so painful at that time, but it is ultimately what has led me here with this inventoryless model, is that we witnessed our clients dropping like flies because all of the big box retailers were bouncing their boxes, sending back inventory. And so everybody is, in a panic about what do we do now? How do we sell? What do we do? We've spent money to produce all of this, and now it's just sitting here. So
yeah, the inventory is expensive.
It's very expensive, and it's very, very, very wasteful. And consumers like new, they don't like the old stuff. So you're then sitting with something that becomes old and then just trickles down, over the fence, as they say, to the outlets, which, we're happy they have a purpose, but we'd like to not be producing that much to begin with.
Right. Now, how did you go from your PR firm to Careste?
So I'm sorry, I'm getting like lots of bangs. I tried to turn that off, my text messages. So the PR agency, when the market crashed, I very begrudgingly moved back to the Bay Area and said, I'm never going to work for myself again. And then after about 3 months of interviewing, I thought, I'm never going to work in-house again. So I did it again. I started another consultancy here in the Bay Area, doing a lot of PR and marketing for a variety of companies. Of course, the Bay Area, it's primarily concentrated with outdoor companies. There's some great tech companies out here. So at that time, I jumped on the athleisure train and did a lot of yoga pant PR and worked with influencers and did a lot of, the early days of what is now such an explosive movement of influencer marketing and digital marketing. So I went from there to starting my own e-commerce marketplace with inventory when we're inventoryless rather. But still the same concept of how do we solve this problem? How do we sell without, producing more inventory? So when really the change for me, and I think it happens for a lot of women, the change for me was after I had my son. I thought long and hard about what I wanted to really be spending my time on, who I wanted to surround myself with. And at that time, I thought I wanted to provide something of meaning to working moms. So we launched a marketplace for working moms that had a lot of great curated content, curated product, specifically for moms who are very time strapped and have a different taste level. So it's, we rode that wave, fundraised for, it was called 32/7. And ultimately the cost of running a marketplace was more than we wanted to invest for the return and the margins. So if we combine those two like early, and very impactful experiences, like the crash of the market with all of this excess inventory, and then the cost and the margins with trying to move that inventory around, we created this new business, which was high margin and inventoryless, which is Careste. So we're solving both of those two problems with making clothes on demand. I mean, this is like 15 years in the making. This journey is not an overnight journey. So all of that said, we feel really confident about where we're headed, especially in this COVID world that we live in, where the same thing is happening again. We're like, oh my God, have we learned our lesson yet? Like, we're still mass producing.
I know.
We're optimistic now with the state of the world that people will finally start to jump on this. Less is more. I mean, of course, I'm in the business of selling clothes, but I'm in the business of selling clothes that are produced sustainably, are using natural fabrics that are better for your body, better for the environment, and we only make what you need. So it feels like we solve a lot of those issues.
And you're about like quality, not quantity. You have a beautiful.
Absolutely, quality over quantity. I mean, fast fashion is like the bane of my existence. So
right now, how long ago did you start Careste?
We started Careste. We launched in fall of 2018, and we spent 2019 somewhat in beta, tinkering with our go-to-market strategy, whether it was going to be pop-ups, which were so wildly popular at the time, or digital. And we were finessing and working through the pop-ups, and we were about to roll out a 3-store test in Bloomingdale's that happened to coincide with the timing of the COVID lockdowns. So we were like, okay, back to square one. The great thing about pop-ups is we were able to acquire really meaningful customers very inexpensively, versus digital. At that time, we were acquiring lots of data and lots of customers, but they weren't converting and they weren't repeating at the rate that our pop-up customers were. And plus, for us, it's about relationships. If you can find one client who repeats over and over and over again, I mean, that's gold. And then you just, you really focus and cater everything to them. But all of that said, we have gone back to the drawing board again, which is one thing that is really, I think, critical about being an entrepreneur, is you have to be flexible, and you have to understand that, oh my God, the problems, they're just going to hit you day in and day out. Elizabeth and I, my business partner, spent 2 months of COVID that we would have been selling in Bloomingdale's. We stopped everything. We're like, you know what, maybe there's a silver lining in this. Like, let's stop and think about what we really want, what's really important to us. And we have this little golden window of, not being busy because we're not on the floor selling, we're not staffing a team. And we re-strategized. We met new people, we put our heads down, and we tweaked our messaging. Sustainability has always been in our brand promise, but we found that during this time that it has become even more important to consumers. So we pulled that to the front. We were finally able to shoot the collection that we've been sitting on since pre-COVID, everybody wearing masks. So it was pretty interesting. And we're going out with that next week. So
That's exciting.
It's exciting. We're really happy about it. I mean, the first year of business is always a little tricky. I mean, you want to make some money and you want to make people happy, but there's a million things that happen along the road to customers.
Exactly. Now, I find partnerships very hard, right? So how did you find Elizabeth? And, is there any advice that you would give to anybody like deciding if they wanted to go into business with a partner?
Partnerships, yes, they're very hard. Elizabeth and I are very fortunate. We were introduced by a mutual colleague, somebody that we know in business. We talked earlier about my first business in New York. That partnership did not end well. I think I hear more business partner horror stories than I hear good stories.
Well, that's why I was asking. Yeah. And I know Elizabeth. That's how I knew Elizabeth first before you, and she's wonderful. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because I know it's a good partnership, but I was just curious.
We could not be more perfectly suited for one another. And I think that a key ingredient in finding a business partner is finding a business partner who has been an entrepreneur before. Whether or not they were in a successful business is completely irrelevant. because I find that if you have failed, you actually learn more than if you were successful. But finding somebody who knows that it's not just, you're not just going to have fun and launch and then, put your feet up on your desk and be done with it, but that it is a grind, it is a long grind. And also that person has to be optimistic enough to know that you're going to see it through, and that for us, it's long game. We're in this for the long game. We're not in this for immediate financial benefit. And the majority of people are, they're like, I need to get paid. I have this much experience and therefore I need X salary. Well, when you're starting a business, like, even if you're really well funded, in our opinion, the best use of the money is to fuel the business, not to pay the founders out of the gate. Like, we want a successful business. The only way you can do that is to spend money to acquire and to build. So.
No, it's totally true. I agree with you. Especially when I like to look at it, investing in companies. I want to know that the founders have skin in the game as well financially, and that I'm not putting money in just to pay the founder.
Oh, totally. And that's one thing that you find out very quickly if people are what their currency is, so to speak.
Yeah. Because it's like, if you want to get paid, then just go back to work, like
totally. Or get a side job or something. Yeah. Because you may or may not get paid this route.
Yeah. Now being a CEO, has it been harder than you thought would be?
Yes and no. I think because I'm a mom, I'm a bit more bulletproof, because when you're a mom, you're used to a lot of demands and a lot of just strange things kind of hitting you at all times of day and night. But the yes is that I found it to be more emotionally challenging than I expected. Just being able to sit with yourself and sit through the bad times, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because it's a lonely world when you're a founder and when you're a CEO. There are very few people who really understand what you're going through. And this also goes back to your business partner. Hopefully you have a business partner who is, has experienced it and can kind of help pull you through. But there are days when you do not want to be bright and cheery, and you put on a bright and cheery face for your team or your business partner or your clients and customers. And you just, have to do your best to plow forward. So it's tough.
No,
it's very tough.
Yeah, it is tough. What characteristics would you tell somebody that you need to be in order to be a successful CEO or entrepreneur?
I would say that you need to be optimistic, and you need to be somewhat stubborn in the sense that, like, the not giving up part of it. And that you need to be strong. Like, you need to be emotionally strong. I mean, it is hard. It's hard, not just, I love work, and Elizabeth is the same. Like, we could work, 15-hour days every day of the week and be so completely fulfilled and not tired and just love what we're doing. But that's the fun stuff for us. It's the hard stuff that's okay, well, this is going wrong. Well, this came up, double the price.
COVID came up.
COVID, yeah. How about a pandemic? A pandemic where you can't leave your house and
you can't plan everything.
Oh my goodness. So, that's where Elizabeth and I are really a great founding team, and that, like, not many people, I think, would sit down and say, okay, this is an opportunity. That most people would be like, okay, we're closing up shop. Like, we're done. I don't want to deal, but brace yourself, founders.
But to that end, on the days that are like, you're like, why am I doing this? I want to throw the towel in. Is there someone, a podcast, a book, a person, like something that inspires you, or you turn to for inspiration to kind of like put your bootstraps back on and get out of bed and go back to the grind?
There are two tools that I have found very helpful for myself, especially in this pandemic. And one of them is the Calm app, the meditation app, which I've used probably for years now, not as much as I should use it. It's one of those things, self-care can feel so painful sometimes. And then you do your little self-care and you're like, why did I take so long to try that? And then the other one is the Sweat app. It's a workout app. And, before COVID, I was definitely a get out and go to a class. If you could go exercise in some way. But the Sweat app, it's all workouts that you could do at home with weights, and they're like 20 minutes long. And I'm like, if I can't carve out 20 minutes for myself, like there's a real problem. So I told my husband to please hold me accountable for doing that app at least 5 days a week. And it makes a huge difference for me. And having the two together of like 10 minutes of meditation, if I can do that every day, and then, a little bit of the workout.
Right. That's great. I've tried the Calm. I haven't tried the Sweat app. So I'm going to try that. Okay. So being a busy mom, a working mom, productivity is where it's at. So is there anything that you would suggest that you use that makes you super productive? If it's an app or a system in place, or any suggestions?
That's a good question. I don't have an app. I probably could be better on using apps for balancing time. But the one thing that I have tried to do that helps me significantly with productivity is to map out the 3 big things that I want to accomplish in the day. Whether it's like looking at the financial model or, doing something with the digital marketing. But that helps keep me focused and away from all of the little things in my inbox. And I think that, like, I'd say like the 4th thing on that list is like, stay away from your inbox, even though it's very, very important. It can be the biggest time suck that you're like, oh, I need to reply to this person. Oh, I need to reply to that person. And then there goes an hour that you could have been like actually doing something to move the needle.
Right. No, it's true. Okay. So you're like me, where I actually enjoy working. So what do you do to maintain your work-life balance? You mentioned like the Sweat app and the Calm app, but is there anything or rules that you kind of live by that to make sure that you're not, obviously you can't work 15 hours a day with your family?
So we try to have family dinner together every night without fail. And our rule at family dinner is that there are no devices allowed at dinner, that it's like our 30 minutes to an hour of just plain togetherness, no interruptions. And what I love about our dinner table is that we go around and we talk about what our favorite part of the day was. And my kids are 6 and 3, so it gets a little entertaining, especially with the 3-year-old, about what her favorite part of her day was. But it helps lighten everything. And it does give us that like little break of just being together. And then on Saturdays, it's also kind of a sacred day for us. Usually my husband wakes up. The big picture is we carve out days that are sacred family time. But my husband will make breakfast, and then we kind of we'll either go for a hike, or my brother has a pool, we'll go swimming at his place. But those are days that, we have at least 5 hours on a Saturday where it's untouched family time.
Right. That's great. Now, is there anything you wish you knew before you either started Careste or any of your other companies?
Oh my goodness. That pandemics are possible.
Right. Expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected, for sure. And that one thing that I have been living by lately is that worst case scenario is often very possible, and to believe a little bit more in worst case scenario, like map out in your modeling and in your plans for A, B, C, D, but focus your numbers on the D, worst case, and then you'll always be surprised and delighted when you are somewhere in between, right?
Mm-hmm. No, totally. I always say it always takes twice as much money and twice as much time as you think it's going to.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And we have bootstrapped Careste 100%. I mean, like, founders haven't been paid. I can't even tell you how many months, but that's okay. Like, we expected that. Like, we would rather fuel the business, but it's just one of those things where it's like that's what you sign up for. This is our.
Well, I always tell people, when you start a company, if it's even a mom and pop shop or whatever it is, like, you can't expect to get paid for 2 to 5 years, right? I mean, because even if you do super well, like, you're putting that money back in. You're either hiring people to help you, or you're hiring inventory or website development, whatever it is, like advertising, like, you're always putting money back in.
This makes me think of an interesting question for you on the angel investing side. Because when you as an entrepreneur and a founder think about a business in that way, and that like fueling the business is really like the best thing for the long run, that there's such a high barrier of entry for folks if they're not able to withstand X months without a salary for whatever reason, whether it's they want to be able to take the trip, or they maybe whatever your rationale is. Is there anything that you do on the angel investing side for folks that are not able to withstand that, whether they're lower income entrepreneurs who are just like really out there on a wish and a dream, or a community or in a group that you ally with?
To be honest with you, I personally don't, like my husband and I don't invest in companies that we're funding their salary. We found that people who feel comfortable and they don't feel the pain as much as we feel pain if it doesn't go well, right?
Pain causes change. Pain is like the greatest motivator.
Totally. And so like if they're getting their salary that's paying their mortgage every month, they don't have that need to succeed. Like it's not there for them. It's a job for them at that point. And so they're comfortable. Like you need to have them know that there's pain if it doesn't succeed just as much as it's my pain if we lose our money.
Totally. This goes back to my stubbornness, where it's like, you have to be stubborn enough to like stick in it to get the other side of that pain.
Right. So I don't know what that answer is. I think I would tell somebody who can't do it, then stay working and do it on the side.
Yeah.
Right. Until it's a proven, like until you get to a point where you're breaking even enough, like your sales are enough that's covering your cost, and then you're also doing it on the side or something to that effect. Right.
Yeah.
That's like where that balance is, which is kind of hard. So is there any words of wisdom that you would give somebody, like it's kind of in line to what we're talking about? Like if they're debating, like, do I leave my job? Do I not leave my job? Do I start this? Do I invest my life savings into a company? Like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, don't do it unless you're okay. One, losing all your money, or two, not being paid, which is losing all your money. If you are okay with that and you can sit with that, then go for it. A lot of people will say, well, I have small children. Like, oh, well, you have a lot of money. And it's like, well, you actually don't know what's going on behind the scenes in someone's family, right? Like maybe you think they have a lot of money, but maybe they're actually just scraping by so that they can make this work. And that's an active choice they've made. But the advice I would give is, unless you're ready to give your absolute all in terms of time, be emotionally exhausted to the extent that you don't really recognize yourself anymore, and also maybe lose some friends because you really see, it's so interesting when you start a business, you really see who is supporting you for who you are versus just kind of there for the ride. It's enlightening, like your whole world view changes. So unless you're ready for that, don't do it. I mean, I love it. I think it's opened up an enormous amount of contacts and wisdom that I never would have had otherwise. But
you definitely grow a thicker skin, right? I mean, it's like, it's hard. So it's definitely hard. Okay. So anything else, like what's next for you and Careste? Like where are you taking the company at this point?
Right now, of course, we just did our soft launch this week with friends and family online. And the next week we have a big push to, like the broader press and consumers in general. But so, making on demand and delighting our current customers is paramount. However, in the fall, we're looking at strategic partners for dropship relationships, whether it's the matches or Net-a-Porter, where we do curated collections with them and then sell on demand. So that's where we are. That's where we'll start to really see the big volume.
Right. That's great. Well, I say to people, like, you might have a great idea, but it's so much harder to attain clients and customers than people think. Like so much harder.
God. It is really hard. It is so hard to acquire customers. And I remember like sitting in investment meetings, for the marketplace and talking about customer acquisition strategy. I mean, at that time with that business, because it was a new business for me coming out of PR, I definitely underestimated the, just how hard it was going to be to acquire customers. So,
because you came out of PR, so you're probably thinking, I already know how to do this. I don't have to pay a lot of money for a PR agency because it's expensive to hire a PR agency. So you're like, I know how to do this. I'm just going to like do my PR thing and I'm going to get customers. Right. And I've had that happen to me. Like I've had friends start and I'm like, I know you think you have a great product and you're going to build a beautiful website, but they don't come running. Like you don't just launch a website and they come running. Like you have to be willing to stick it in for the long haul, and it's super expensive to acquire these customers. And so especially if you're saying that coming from the PR world, right?
Where I think I can sell anybody on anything.
Right, right. So like that's one thing I look at when we invest in companies. I'm like, okay, who's actually starting it? I don't really even care about the idea. It's
Yeah.
like, who is the person who is selling whatever they're selling? Because I need to know they have an in. Like, is it, they're a celebrity and they have millions of followers? Is it whatever it is? Like, I need to know that like as soon as you turn the switch on, there's not like skipping a beat of like, where are these customers coming from?
Right.
Because it's super expensive.
It's super expensive. And, this also goes back to kind of like the team and everything. I mean, we recently folded a woman onto our team. She's the former PR director of Ferragamo. She's also the former founder of luxury rental platform Armarium. I don't know if you heard about it, but she, at her fingertips, has the most incredible network. And it's not just an incredible network, it's an incredible network of people who do things that they are passionate about. Sustainability is definitely at the forefront of everybody's minds right now. And our give back has been very compelling to them. And we've had great folks sign on to endorse for free. I mean, it is possible, but you have to know, to your point, you have to know the right people to be able to pull that lever.
Okay, this has been awesome. Any other last comments, tips that you would think that we haven't covered?
I mean, I love doing this. I could sit here and talk for hours with you. It's been really, really fun, but I don't know. Maybe my advice would be, I don't know, stay strong, founders.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, it's a great, if it works, because right now, like, being an entrepreneur is so sexy, right? You see all these entrepreneurs on the cover of every magazine and you think it's so easy, right? You think, okay, I want to be that person because look at Shark Tank, like those people, it must be, you don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that went into them getting on that cover of a magazine or Shark Tank, or knowing that, I don't even know what the percentage is, 9 out of 10 fail or something like that, right? So you don't see all of the heartache. You just see all the glamour. So it's you just want to make sure people know what they're getting themselves into. But if it works, it's being your own boss is the best, because then you can decide.
It is. Like one thing that I love is that I'm able to, we live in Mill Valley, and we live in the house that we live in because my son's elementary school is literally a walk down the street. And so I'm able to leave my desk and walk to pick him up and bring him back. I mean, we're fortunate we have an au pair. She lives downstairs, but that's important to me, to be able to like have those little moments where I can like be with him throughout his day. And I would not be able to do that if I did not work for myself. So
exactly.
And put a price on that.
Exactly. You can. I feel the same way. But this has been awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. And anyone who's listening who wants to check it out, just go to careste.com and you can check out her beautiful clothing and do your virtual try on, and she will fit you. And I have a couple of your shirts and I absolutely love them. They're so comfortable. And you have the best pattern. But your new stuff that launched is much more neutral, I've noticed.
Yeah. This is all kind of COVID inspired, that it is, easier to be at home and just kind of easier to be around in, because everybody's been stuck at home. Everything's becoming much more casual, which is great. That is, all of that is to say that we have a lot coming with our collection in the fall. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, good luck to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I
appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
I'm just going to stop recording.